Welcome back to the channel. This will be the FPL transfer tips for Game Week 3. Keep your eyes peeled for more content throughout the week. That will include a team selection podcast. I've still got 2 players left on Monday night, and that will also be discussed. The review of Game Week 2, my transfer plans, a possible chip being deployed, of course, for the upcoming deadline. There will be a new stream, of course, next Saturday, and there was the reaction stream only yesterday at the time of this recording, so that was on the Saturday. So there is plenty of content that you're going to look forward to. The wildcard would be another one of those. And if you want to see a predicted lineups podcast, then let me know down in the comment section below. Perhaps even a free hit squad as well, just to give the full package of FPL coverage, just like I did for the previous deadline. On screen, you can see the most transferred in players at this point of the game week. João Pedro is the most popular option, despite having such high ownership already. And the likes of Semenyo, Richarlison, Chris Wood, and Jurrien Timber are in the top 5. Other popular choices include Cucurella, Kudus, Reinders, Brennan Johnson, and Calafiori. So some of these options will be discussed today and throughout my upcoming videos and live streams. And the same goes for massive differentials with low ownership, who can help you rise up those mini leagues and the rankings to get those green arrows that we all want in Fantasy Premier League. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content, whether it's for FPL or UCL Fantasy. The Champions League is returning very soon, and the same goes for those UCL Fantasy videos and live streams on my channel. Check all the links in the description below for patreon.com/FPL Dylan. There's also my join button on the YouTube channel so you can become a member and gain early access to my videos and many other perks. There's a Discord server where every single goal, assist, bonus point, price change will all be covered in that server. And there is my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, so we can continue the conversation. The same goes for that comment section down below. On Spotify, a 5-star review would be greatly appreciated, and thank you for all your support. Our aim will be to get this to the 200 likes on YouTube, and we're closing in on 35,000 subscribers. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Despite missing a penalty against Fulham in Game Week 2, I still think Bruno Fernandes is a long-term purchase with some great fixtures on the horizon. That includes Burnley at home in Game Week 3 and Sunderland also at home in Game Week 7, and even in those more difficult fixtures in between, Fernandes has that ability to make a difference in the big games, but ultimately it's 2 blanks out of 2 with 0 goals and 0 assists, but he did hit defensive contribution points against Fulham, and that kind of masked that penalty miss in a way, so he scored 2 points in that game. And against Arsenal, he was 1 defensive action shy from also hitting defensive contribution points there as well. So he's averaging 12 defensive actions per game with this limited sample size, and he made 5 key passes against the Gunners in Game Week 1, and that's 6 for the season so far. And he will have the shot volume. You've also got the likes of Mbeumo, Amad Diallo, and Matheus Cunha, and all of them will have their own moments this season. But I think the most consistent will be Bruno Fernandes. If he had to pick one of them as a long-term Cole Palmer replacement if necessary, I think Fernandes might be on the top of the agenda. And because he blanked in the first 2 game weeks, people will be overlooking him and just kind of chasing last week's points. So I think Bruno Fernandes is a nice purchase. He only has 1 goal against Burnley throughout his career, but he could easily make that 2 by the time we get to Game Week 3. Anthony Gordon was the player with the most shots in Game Week 1 with 7 overall, and we'll see how he does on Monday night against Liverpool, but I think he can cause problems against the best teams in the country, and against Arsenal last season, and even before that, he has been doing really well against them, especially at St James's Park. So even when you get to that Arsenal fixture in Game Week 6, I think Anthony Gordon could still deliver against the Gunners, and over the next 2, it's Leeds away and Wolves at home, who are both also looking a bit shaky so far this season. I know Leeds had a good performance in Game Week 1, but I think there will be a lot of concerns after that 5-0 loss against Arsenal, and with Wolves, they are winless so far this season. Gordon hasn't scored nor assisted so far, but of course, he has only played 1 game at the time of this recording, so that could well change by Monday night. It's 3 FPL points. He also looked very lively playing as the striker, but I think he's even better on the left-hand side, and if Alexander Isak could be integrated by the time we get to Game Week 4 or 5, or if Newcastle just sign a striker, I think that'll only be better for Anthony Gordon because his best football comes as a left winger. Now, he's had 2 shots on target so far this season, 4 shots inside the box. The XG is 0.55, so he missed a big chance against Aston Villa, and he also made 1 key pass, but I think his creativity is quite underrated, and when you're comparing him to Elanga, Harvey Barnes, and the other Newcastle midfielders, I still think Anthony Gordon is the most appealing. He may have blanked in Game Week 2, but Chris Wood is on the verge of another price rise to 7.7 million. So if it doesn't happen on Sunday night going into Monday morning, it should happen over the next couple of days, according to several websites like livefpl.net. He scored a brace in Game Week 1 against Brentford. The XG over the course of the season is 1.16, and he has scored 15 FPL points, and the fixtures are looking really appealing, with the exceptions of Arsenal away in Game Week 4 and Newcastle away in Game Week 7. But Chris Wood scored a hat-trick at St James's Park a few years ago, and with West Ham at home up next, the Hammers have conceded 8 goals in this Premier League campaign, and I think Nottingham Forest will be the heavy favourites to win that match. Burnley away and Sunderland at home makes Chris Wood so appealing over the next 4 game weeks, and even against Arsenal, he could get a return in one way, shape or form. And last season when Arsenal beat Forest 3-0, Chris Wood was on the bench after returning from international duty with a slight problem, I believe. But Chris Wood is going to be a very good choice this time round, and I think the only concern would be if he starts or not in Game Week 4 because of the long travel distances and the international break in mind. But I think he's the best Forest attacker by some distance. But I don't know what it is with these Forest players this season. Elliot Anderson produced a brilliant assist in Game Week 1, and Ndoye did it in Game Week 2 for Callum Hudson-Odoi. So I think the service and creativity is still there, and Morgan Gibbs-White had a great performance against Brentford. So I think if they're all firing and Chris Wood is playing up front, he's going to get a lot of service despite the departure of Anthony Elanga. And we also saw Igor Jesus play alongside Chris Wood in Game Week 2 in that 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace. So I think Chris Wood is a very secure long-term option here, and the minutes aren't really a concern for me. He played 87 minutes, of course, in Game Week 2. Only one big chance this season, one key pass. The expected assist is 0.07, and he's had 2 shots on target. Yeah, he's so clinical from the beginning of last season. He has scored 2 goals, and that's all that matters. If you're looking for a forward right now, João Pedro might be the standout, but I think Chris Wood could rival him. And of course, Erling Haaland, Watkins, Gyökeres will also be very appealing, but I think Chris Wood might be in the top 3 forwards in the game. Ekitike was the best Liverpool attacker in Game Week 1, and in the Community Shield final against Crystal Palace, he scored very early on in that game, and I think he certainly has that ability. I think he's also a very good player to watch, but he can add goals and assists to that Liverpool attack, and if they don't sign Alexander Isak or another striker, I think Ekitike will start most Premier League games this season, so he is worth holding on to. It is Arsenal at home next, which isn't the greatest fixture on paper, but then it's Burnley away and Everton at home. I don't think it's worth selling the likes of Wirtz, Gakpo and Ekitike just yet. We could see one of them getting benched at some point, but I still think Liverpool's best 11 includes all 3 of them alongside Mohamed Salah. Then you will have the likes of Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch just behind them, and I think we could see that happen against Newcastle on Monday night, with Szoboszlai playing as the right back to fill in for the injured Frimpong, who is an obvious sell, even though he could be back for that Burnley away fixture in Game Week 4. There is no need to rush him straight away, especially in such a plum fixture, and I think that's where Ekitike could get another double-digit haul. He got 1 goal and 1 assist in the Premier League opener, a 4-2 thriller against Bournemouth. The XG was 1.14. He scored 11 FPL points, and against Newcastle, I wouldn't be surprised if Ekitike, who was linked with them, does something there on Monday night. His stats overall are quite impressive, but it's a limited sample size, of course. 2 shots on target, 4 shots overall, and the XG, of course, is good, but the expected assist is kind of non-existent at this point at 0.02, with 2 big chances and 2 key passes. But Ekitike will offer a lot of dimension and also versatility in that Liverpool attack. He can play on the left wing, but his best football undoubtedly comes up front. Aston Villa haven't scored a Premier League goal so far this season, and if you are in the camp of having Watkins and Rodgers, selling one of them certainly isn't a bad idea to diversify your attack and maybe invest in more free-flowing clubs at this moment in time. But Rodgers, at this price point, is still one of the best options on paper until Game Week 8, and Aston Villa are top of the fixture difficulty rating during that time period. There is Sunderland away in Game Week 5 and Burnley at home in Game Week 7, and even the other fixtures aren't particularly bad against Crystal Palace, Everton and Fulham. But Rodgers had a decent chance against Brentford, but his performance overall was quite shocking on Saturday. The XGI is 0.39 over the course of the season with 5 FPL points, but Rodgers hasn't really shown too much in general. The XG is 0.12. He has had 2 shots, but none of them were on target. The expected assist is 0.17, and 2 key passes isn't really that great when you also factor in 0 big chances and 0 big chances created. But I think Rodgers and Watkins will come good, and maybe sticking with both of them is the play over the next 3 or 4 game weeks. But patience is wearing thin, and ultimately, even if you kind of keep Rodgers against Crystal Palace and Everton, if he doesn't return in those 2 games, you'd still be tempted to sell him when Aston Villa travel to the Stadium of Light. But I think that could be a massive mistake as well, and Aston Villa will click eventually, but I think they need 1 or 2 changes in that starting 11 to go for something a little bit more offensive. I would like to see one of Guesan or Donymarlin on the right-hand side. They could link up very well with Rodgers and Watkins, and with so many other FPL midfielders performing very well at 7 million and below, and obviously some of them, like Semenyo, have increased in price. He is now at 7.2 million, soon to be 7.3. I think that is where people will naturally gravitate towards, and with an underperforming Morgan Rodgers, it's quite easy to be in that sort of mindset of selling him. But if he's your only Aston Villa attacker, my advice is to keep him. For those of Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rodgers, I'd be more tempted to sell Rodgers in this case and keep Ollie Watkins, whose ceiling is maybe a little bit higher, and his consistency over the last couple of years has been phenomenal. I discussed this in the last Transfer Tips podcast, and Morgan Rodgers is still a quality FPL asset, but he needs to get going very soon. My original stance is that Cole Palmer is a hold until we get further injury updates, so very similar to Bukayo Saka, but I was actually more inclined to keep Palmer and sell Saka, but things have changed over the last couple of days because we got a few reports, and I did read one of them out, of course, what Maresca said straight after that 5-1 win against West Ham away, and he said the following about Palmer's groin injury. Cole was not 100% in the last few days. He tried in the warm-up to play, but he was not right. We will see how bad it is. He was already not 100% against Palace, but he tried to make an effort for the club, fans and team. But we did get some kind of breaking news from different Chelsea pages. I'm not sure exactly what the source is, so these are unconfirmed reports, but it does say that Palmer is set to miss the game against Fulham due to a groin injury. Tests are ongoing to assess whether he can make the bench. Chelsea hope to have him back after the international break and ready for Brentford. So based on that, I think Palmer is more of a sell than a hold, but don't do anything just yet. I know people might want to chase price rises, but unless you're going to Salah, every other midfielder is cheaper, so you're not going to be priced out unless you're making 2 or 3 moves, which might include a forward upgrade, for example, and you're going to Erling Haaland or just a striker who's more expensive than your current asset in that position. But Cole Palmer hasn't scored or assisted so far this season. I think that would have certainly changed if he played against West Ham on Friday night. He had 4 shots against Crystal Palace, 2 FPL points, and the underlying stats are not too bad, to be honest, and Cole Palmer will do really well over the course of the season. He had 2 shots inside the box. The XG was 0.21. He's the main penalty taker at Chelsea, despite the fact that Joao Pedro is capable from the penalty spot. The expected assist, though, was quite low against Crystal Palace at 0.03. Chelsea really struggled to break them down, and only 1 key pass for Cole Palmer, but he will almost certainly get 80 plus in that sort of metric if he plays the kind of minutes and gets the starts that I expect this season. But I think Palmer is more of a sell right now, and that could well change if we get positive news and confirmed reports indicating that Palmer is available in that local derby against Fulham. But right now, early on in the week, I would say Cole Palmer is more of a sell. During the reaction stream on Saturday night, I discussed the possibility of selling Saka, who has difficult fixtures on the horizon anyway, and the injury didn't look good whatsoever. He was holding his hamstring, and Arteta said that it could be serious, but there are reports that came out on Sunday, and they were much more positive about Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. So both Gary Jacob and The Athletic have said the following: Arsenal have received a boost after scans suggested neither Bukayo Saka nor Martin Odegaard have sustained long-term injuries following the early exits in Saturday's 5-0 win. So I think Bukayo Saka might be well poised to start against Liverpool. And I made a similar mistake last season where Saka was an injury doubt heading into a Liverpool home fixture, to be fair, and I sold him. He ended up scoring quite early on in that game, and also against Nottingham Forest, who he faces in Game Week 4, he has a very good record against them, particularly at home, so I think Saka can still do well in most of these matches. But are you going to captain him over the next 5 game weeks? I mean, West Ham at home would be a serious consideration in Game Week 7 if the Hammers don't improve, but otherwise, you might be looking at Nottingham Forest, and even then, they have a solid defence, and the Gunners might struggle more so this time round. But I think Bukayo Saka is a hold, and if you have Saka and Palmer, it might be a little bit different to what I discussed a few days ago in that reaction stream, because things have changed over the last couple of days with those reports. Saka has only scored 1 goal this season, which came against Leeds just before he was subbed off. He has had 1 big chance so far and 9 FPL points. The XG is only 0.16 and the expected assist is 0.12, with 3 key passes, 1 shot on target and 2 shots overall, but both of them were inside the box, and I think Bukayo Saka will be one of the best midfielders in Fantasy Premier League this season. His consistency is remarkable. The expectation of most Arsenal fans is for Bukayo Saka to get 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists in the Premier League alone, and whilst he won't be on penalties anymore this season, several reports indicate that Victor Gyökeres is now the main penalty taker, and obviously he took one against Leeds United, despite the fact that Odegaard and Saka weren't on the pitch. But Mikel Arteta was asked about the best penalty taker at the club, and he said Victor Gyökeres. But Bukayo Saka is on set pieces like those corners, and he'll get plenty of assists from them, and Arsenal are still finding different ways to cause problems from those scenarios. And from open play, Bukayo Saka scored that brilliant goal, assisted by Jurrien Timber, and he's got so many avenues to points, with the exception of Defcon pretty much, but Bukayo Saka will still be second in line for those penalties. So if Gyökeres isn't on the pitch, expect Saka to be taking them. And whilst his minutes will be reduced this season with the signing of Madueke, and they need to manage Saka's load to make sure he doesn't pick up these recurring injuries, I still think he's one of the best midfielders in the game. Rain Aït-Nouri tried to continue against Tottenham Hotspur in their 2-0 defeat, but he simply couldn't, and he was subbed off in the first half to deliver 1 point, but he was impressive against his former club Wolves in Game Week 1, and that's where he got 15 defensive contributions. He scored 9 FPL points on that occasion, but he was also a popular replacement for Frimpong, who also got injured in the build-up to Game Week 2, and Aït-Nouri is reportedly going to miss the next 3 weeks, but in FPL terms, he's only going to miss that Brighton away fixture in Game Week 3, and he could be back for the Manchester derby in Game Week 4, so there is definitely a debate to keep him. If you've got that defensive depth, I don't think Rain Aït-Nouri is a priority sell, but I still think you can go to other solid options for Game Week 3, even Daniel Munoz, who got an assist, of course, in the recent game week, and you've got other options where that came from. Lacroix is another one from Crystal Palace. I still like the Nottingham Forest defenders, especially against West Ham at home and in some of those plum fixtures I talked about earlier. And you might even fancy a few one-week punts like Man United, even though their record under Ruben Amorim is terrible. And whilst you don't want to go for Virgil van Dijk, Gabriel and these Arsenal-Liverpool defenders on paper this week, you've also got the Newcastle options against Leeds away. So I think Rain Aït-Nouri is more of a sell, and Gvardiol has been in training recently. He could be taking that spot at this moment in time to fill in for the Algerian, but once both of them are fully fit and available, we should see Gvardiol partner one of John Stones or Ruben Dias in defence, and Aït-Nouri will be the designated left back this season. He has had his injury problems over the years, and I think Aït-Nouri on his day is a quality FPL asset, and he started 37 games for Wolves last season, but he is going to miss Game Week 3, of course. I think that is going to be pretty much set in stone, and just wait for confirmed reports, of course, before selling him, but we could see that 6.1 million price tag, which was obviously quite recent because of that transfer activity, we could see that go down to 6 million again, but it doesn't affect selling value, so I wouldn't be in a rush to sell Rain Aït-Nouri right now, especially if you have that defensive depth. But in terms of attacking potential, he certainly has it. He had 2 shots so far this season with 1 key pass. The XG and expected assists aren't anything special just yet, but I think Aït-Nouri will outscore most defenders, especially when it comes to those goal contributions, and he also has that DEFCON potential, which can be so important. Ricardo Calafiori has had an outstanding start to this season with 26 FPL points. He scored the winner against Man United, and he also got 2 assists in that 5-0 win against Leeds. And throughout pre-season, he was getting a lot of minutes as a left centre-back alongside Saliba, but with Gabriel returning to the side, and I think Calafiori's kind of unique play style, he can bomb forward from the left-hand side and offer Arsenal another dimension to their attack, and he does make those overlapping runs, which Lewis Skelly isn't really too used to doing because he's a midfielder by trade. He likes to drift into the midfield, and with Declan Rice and Zubimendi playing more in a pivot nowadays in a 4-2-3-1 formation, I think that gives Calafiori a better chance to start. So I don't think it's a terrible FPL pick, and if he can start consistently for Arsenal, he is going to be a very good option at 5.6 million. But the reason why I'm talking about skipping Calafiori is because of his injury record, and for his time with the Gunners, he has just always picked up these problems and has kind of stop-start, and that's really halted his Premier League career. But I think he is a quality player, and he is more of a left centre-back, to be honest, but at left-back he can still cause opposing teams all sorts of problems. His XG is 0.99, and obviously that goal he scored to capitalise on Bayern's error was a complete tap-in, but his stats in general are decent. The XGI is 1.01, he's had one big chance, 2 key passes, 4 shots overall, and I think he'll get plenty of game time this season, but it's all about that fitness. And the other key reason why I'm talking about skipping him is because of those fixtures. Whilst Arsenal could get 2 or 3 clean sheets out of the next 5 fixtures, I think most people watching will have a different opinion, because Liverpool away next, I just don't simply see it, and Arsenal, of course, would do a great job to keep a clean sheet at Anfield. Then it's Nottingham Forest at home, followed by Man City and Newcastle, and even with West Ham, the Hammers, for some reason, are a bogey team for the Gunners at the Emirates. We saw that last season, but Calafiori could be a quality FPL asset. We should add him to the watch list, but I think the likes of Gabriel and Saliba are more secure in the long term. Trevor Chalobah scored Chelsea's 5th goal in that incredible win on Friday night, and he has been transferred in by 70,000 FPL managers at the time of this recording. But my main issue with Chelsea defenders is the rotation. The best ways of covering the Blues defensively are through Marc Cucurella, then Robert Sanchez between the sticks. But Chalobah has 1 goal this season, 2 big chances, which is very impressive for a centre-back, and 14 FPL points, and his stats overall won't be too shabby. The expected assist is 0.04, and the XG is 0.4. Shots in the box, of course, is very important, and naturally, these defenders will have pretty much every single shot being in that sort of scenario. So 2 shots for him, and then both of them are inside the box. 1 shot on target, and you won't really expect too much creativity from him. Reece James will definitely appeal to some people, but I just wouldn't go there. The minutes are a huge concern, and rotation with Malo Gusto is inevitable at this point. So just go for Cucurella or Robert Sanchez. And offensively, of course, you've got Cole Palmer once he's fully fit and up and running, and Joao Pedro up front. So I think that's where you should invest in with the Blues, and Chalobah isn't going to be one of those long-term solutions. I'm not even sure if he starts the next 5 Premier League games back-to-back, and you've also got that sort of transfer window over the next week. I think Chelsea will sign another centre-back after Levi Colwill's ACL injury, so you can do much better at 5 million and below. Even Lacroix at Crystal Palace will offer much better value and consistency, so I think Chalobah is a skip. It was Victor Gyökeres last week as the 1-week punt. I also talked about Martin Odegaard if you want to go massively differential, and of course that injury to him was very unfortunate, but this week I'm recommending Matheus Cunha as one of the best 1-week punts for Game Week 3. He hasn't scored or assisted in the Premier League so far this season, a common theme amongst many of these players, but I think plenty of goal contributions will come for the Brazilian, who has been very lively for Man United with 4 shots on target and 4 FPL points. His ownership is still 10%, and I think a lot of people will invest in Bryan Mbeumo, Cunha, and Bruno Fernandes, especially for Game Week 3 against Burnley at home. Cunha has an XG figure of 0.78, 1 big chance and 2 key passes, and when he does inevitably score, he will get bonus points, but not to the same level as he did last season, where he was the absolute talisman for Wolves. This time round, of course, he's 2nd or 3rd in the penalty order. I think he'd probably be 3rd behind Mbeumo, and of course Fernandes, despite that miss, would still be the top taker. And you've also got a few other issues here and there to contend with, but I think Sesko will start in Game Week 3 against Burnley, and Cunha will play in a more natural position for him as the left inside forward, and the shot volume is always there with the Brazilian. He has been very consistent over the past year for Wolves and Brazil, and I think Cunha will do really well in fixtures like Burnley coming up next. You've also got Sunderland, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, so even as a long-term acquisition, I don't think Cunha is a bad purchase, but I think it's more of a Game Week 3 sort of punt more than anything else. We have another Chelsea player topping the charts for transfer activity. While Joao Pedro is the most transferred in at this point of the game week, Cole Palmer is the most transferred out, with 516,000 FPL managers selling Cole Palmer. Frimpong is 2nd, Aït-Nouri, Watkins and Jarrod Bowen are in the top 5. I still think the latter 2, Watkins and Bowen, are worth keeping, as discussed in last week's Transfer Tips podcast, and be sure to check out my best wildcard squad, the team selection, and if you want to see it, a predicted lineups as I've done for the last couple of weeks, and a best free hit squad as well. There's also my deadline and reaction streams to look forward to, and the same goes for UCL fantasy content. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit that notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for the Champions League and FPL. So keep your eyes peeled for that because you've got a lot more headed your way very soon. Our aim is to get this to over 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards new goals like 35,000 subscribers. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM for the latest FPL and Use Your Fantasy updates. Check out my Patreon and the championships, so click the join button on YouTube or go to patreon.com/FPL Dylan for early access to my videos, prior to reply to comments, and many other perks. There's also my Discord server for every single update when it comes to price rises, the lineups, goals, assists, bonus points, you name it. And there's also my Spotify if you want to listen to it as a podcast, and leaving a 5-star review also goes a long way to supporting the channel. I'll see you very soon for the Gameweek 3 deadline stream next Saturday, and keep your eyes peeled for Use Your Fantasy content.